listeners on WWDB 860 and everywhere else via the live stream. This is Kevin O'Brien. I'm with Wayne Middleton, and this is the SMB Acceleration Show. Remember, if you missed anything this morning on the radio broadcast or live stream, you can catch the podcast on our website, smbacceleration.com, or anywhere podcasts are found. If you're a small business owner looking to accelerate your business growth, I recommend taking advantage of our small business marketing audit. It's not too late. Special runs through the 31st, and for $99, you get our usual $2,500 small business marketing audit. And how's it going this morning, Wayne?
Good. 76 was actually kind to me today. But I think that's because everyone else is off for the Christmas season, holiday season. So I'll take it where I can.
Absolutely, you can't beat that. Anytime you can get off the Schuylkill without sitting in major backup is for definitely a win.
Oh yeah, after last week and my slightly late appearance, folks, it's a welcome break.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I guess kind of had a topic in mind for this morning. I wanted to get your thoughts, and I was thinking somebody came up to me, after talking last week, and their big concern was social media. They were really frustrated by how they feel they should know they should be doing social media, but it just seems like often there's no return.
Yeah, it's social media is still, it's one of those things that if it's done well, can be fantastic for your company, for your business, help grow, accelerate it. But how do you do it well? And what sort of things should you be doing? How should you measure it? What really does it mean? We reported out a few weeks ago that Facebook, Instagram, they're not really going to show likes anymore, and likes have kind of always been a bit of a vanity metric anyway. And now we're looking at different things. So engagement becomes much more important than the amount of traffic and everything else you get. So it's a melting pot that a lot of companies struggle with, large and small.
Absolutely, it really is, and I think it's a great topic, especially going into the new year, because you almost have to be doing it, and that's what I said to the business owner. I said, it's not necessarily that you cannot do it, but on the flip side, there's a lot of it that seems to have no return, and on investment especially. And as you and I always talk about, that's something that is kind of near and dear to everything we like to do as far as marketing and business is how does it work into the grand scheme of your return on investment, whether it is your time or an employee's time or an outsourced service. At the end of the month and the quarter and the year, is it valuable?
Yeah, is your ROI worth it? The hard things with it can generate awareness of your products, your services. From there, once you've established a good following, once you've got your name out, how can I now
return of I posted 20 times on social media, I should get a conversion. And I don't think that's necessarily the way it works either. I think it's kind of has to be part of your marketing strategy, part of the
How you set up GA, there's a million different ways it can be set up, and you have to just be, this is where me and you would play is make sure you know what you're doing, make sure you're tracking the right things, make sure you're looking and analyzing that data correctly, because that's where the challenge is.
Absolutely, it really is. I mean, the biggest challenge for sure is getting data that's accurate and knowing that what I'm looking at is true, and it's much easier on e-commerce platforms for two reasons. One, they're built to track it.
Yes.
And two, they have that, people are used to social purchases now. Buying a t-shirt or buying a painting or something from Etsy or, anything like that, or it's just consumer purchases can be such an impulse thing, and a lot of times, especially if you're on the B2B side, they're not impulse buys. They're one, too expensive to be.
Yeah, they're long-term commitments. Really, it's a contractual agreement. You're going to be, if it's a, I used to work in the technology space, so you may be downloading a new rack-mounted server or rack-mounted WAN system or something like that. That's a significant investment, and it's a technology stack. So you're not going to necessarily buy off a social media channel. But what a B2B companies should be doing in that instance is really, and this is where the brand awareness comes in, is making sure their message is getting out there, making sure that they are communicating with the right people to ultimately drive them to a destination, knowing that it's going to be a long-term sale. It may take 6 months to a year to possibly even 2 years in some cases for the whole sales cycle to go through. And really all you can expect from social media in that respect is awareness of who you are, why you're different, what makes your product so good. Get those testimonials up into Google, get them into Facebook, get some customer feedback, do some videography and work on some nice videos, do product walkthroughs, demos. All of this is ultimately food that feeds the engine to drive people to your website so they can come to it very informed and ready to make that purchase. And I think that's the significant difference. Is B2B, you have to educate, excite, and then deliver. And that takes time. It's not something that happens instantly. Social media is more of an instant gratification type.
Yeah,
tool.
Absolutely.
So that's why it works so well with e-commerce is, at the end of the day, I've done it myself where I've been on Instagram, you look at stuff and, at the time my headphones are just broken. So I saw these kind of nice looking, very sexy animated video of these fake Apple iPods, AirPods or whatever they're called. And yes, I admit I fell for it. So I purchased them. They are terrible.
Really?
But, yeah, the audio quality is absolutely dire. But I fell for it. It was an impulse buy. I just, for whatever reason, it spoke to me at that moment, probably just because the headphones I spent a fair amount of cash on died. I was like, well, why spend so much when I can get these cheap pair? I'm sure that I'm sure they're going to be fine. And for most part they are. But the sound quality, I'm a bit of a sound snob, so it wasn't great for me. But we all fall for it. B2B is much more of a long-term cycle. They have, and again, it ties in with everything else you're doing. Social is just one portion of every other educational brand awareness piece that you have around that. So your events, your e-marketing, your SEO, your online advertising, all of this is geared to drive people to your website to ultimately convert.
Absolutely. No, I think that's the great differentiator between B2B and B2C. I mean, or even on the same B2C side is the sales cycle length. has such a, driver of almost your strategy of how you need to look at it. If I'll use when I owned a real estate business, and it was vacation homes in the worst real estate market possible. So I mean that actually had a secondary effect of making people less apt to be ready to buy a vacation home because the economy really was terrible. Yeah. So, but on the flip side, the really interesting thing was when we looked at it over time, there were always conversions, and people did come back via social media, and we did find them via Facebook, or we would retarget them. But looking at it in the aggregate showed much different results than looking at it in that short term.
Mm-hmm.
What happened this month? I have 42 page views from Twitter or Facebook, yeah, and you're like, oh well, we put out all these tweets. That doesn't seem like it's very worthwhile, but really, it is a important part of it.
Yeah, I think the trick to social media, quite honestly, is don't expect immediate results.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take time. You've got to get your brand out there first. You've got to build that affinity, and then ultimately, whether you're B2C, B2B, put out a product and service that and make sure you're reaching that right audience that speaks to them and gets them interested. The more you educate, I always say, if you're asking someone to do something, so you want them to click through to your website, give them a reason to click.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the street and someone walked up to you and said, "Hey, I'm Kevin, here's a cake," you're probably not going to be too comfortable taking that cake away from Kevin.
Yeah.
But if Kevin actually introduced himself and you saw him a couple of times during the rest of the week, and then he came up to you and said, "Hey, I've been baking a cake. I'm a baker in the local area. Would you like a cake? It's just one we had left over in the shop, and I'm trying to give it to someone." You've seen him, you know him, you trust him. You'd probably take the cake, but off a first time interaction, you're not going to.
Oh, that's funny. My wife, being a teacher, gets sometimes homemade Christmas gifts.
Oh,
and it's always funny, teacher.
The ultimate potluck, right?
Yeah. Teachers in general, all of a sudden they're like, well,
yeah.
Did these kids wash their hands before they?
Yeah, I'd be highly skeptical of that myself.
Oh, but it's funny when you stop and think about the power of social media. Now, if the kid had a, Twitter or a Facebook following where they were, one of these kid chefs making recipes, you'd probably be like, oh, way more apt to your point of,
absolutely. My eldest this weekend actually baked a really nice bloomer bread loaf, like white bread. It looked professional, and I was like, dang. So she's learning how to cook and she's exploring it and enjoying it.
That's a great thing.
She's already sort of said, "Hey, can I set up some social? Can I do a YouTube channel?" I'm like, "No, not right now."
Oh, it's funny, right? Where you're like, I don't know about it. There are both sides to it. But I guess that brings us to the funny thing, talking social media and some things I saw on the news. I'm going to give you two headlines which seem almost contradictory. One was social media is the top way small businesses get customers over holiday shopping season. And the other was pros and cons of small businesses using social media marketing. So you know what? I completely understand why there's so much confusion for small business owners.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on the type of business you are, what services you're offering, and how you're communicating your brand. I mean, it comes down to one thing, folks. Whether you're a small, medium, or a large business, it really doesn't matter. Social media is a great way to grow your brand. Beyond that, you can get conversions, but you just got to go into it knowing it takes time, knowing that it's important that you stay the course and keep posting, keep testing different things. Like try to get those likes to actually engage with your content. Make them try to leave comments. Give them opportunities to leave comments. I think that's the trick. And as you can tell, just in two links, and I know we do a lot of research on this typically
Absolutely.
throughout the week. I managed to pick on 4 or 5 different links this week where everything from social media is the best thing ever for small businesses to you don't want to be doing social media and maybe now is the time to move away from it. I mean, if you're a small business owner and you're trying to research and you're like, you see all these different messages out there, honestly, just stay the course.
Yeah.
It will ultimately, if nothing else, it grows your brand footprint, and that's really all you want to happen. Whether you're a brick and mortar store in the local high street selling boutique clothing, to a B2B company trying to break into new technology software space, you really use it to grow your brand.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And, before we really get into the nitty gritty of each platform and some of our thoughts on how we would apply them in 2020, just I want to touch on quickly. To me, a blog seems like an inherent part of a social media strategy. You really need it to be kind of one with your social media. And I often think of it outside just the content creation, that there has to be a tie-in between what you're doing with your blog and what you're doing with your social channels.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good comment, and we'll probably talk more about this after the break, but I think it is. It's a natural tie-in to creating those stories, those little micro events that you can have on all your different social media channels. So if you don't have if you don't have everything set up, then you've got to really work at it and try to incorporate your blog into your social activity too.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to take a quick break. But before we do, remember, if you miss anything this morning on the radio broadcast or live stream, you can catch the podcast on our website, SMBAcceleration.com, or anywhere podcasts are found. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little social media and get you ready for 2020. I forgot. I know. I did. I was like, oh, wait. Oh, you got it working now?
Yeah.
What was it?
It seemed to have gone on mute for some reason. But we're up and running now, so should be good.
I'm kidding. I threw you for a loop. I was so worried. I'm like, oh, that was driving me crazy. I know. Before telling you. Hello, live stream. I know we've been live without sound, but I think we should be good with sound now. So feel free to ask any of your questions. We're happy to answer them.
Yeah, I can confirm we have sound. I just tested it myself.
Did you? Right.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, that was some good conversation around social. It'd be really, after the break on air, we're going to be getting into the different platforms, what to look for, how to use them. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of topics.
Yeah.
Can you adjust my volume, because I can't hear anything through there, right?
Uh-huh.
Perfect.
Good?
Yeah.
All right. Nobody's looking. Well, I guess not, because we had no audio for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can see some comments coming through, which is good. It was just you apologising.
Yeah.
We are nothing. We may be technically inept, but at least we're polite about it.
Yeah.
You sound really different. For those of you on live stream, Kevin recorded an ad for our show on Sunday, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
And he sounds so different on the ad than he does in person.
I thought the same thing. I was just thinking the same thing. It was like,
I wonder if you sound like that on air.
So if you're tuning in, let us know.
Yeah, does Kevin have dulcet tones, or is it more of the abrupt Philadelphian accent?
Yeah.
I think this is what we need to know. And here's an interesting thing. So with me being from a different place, different country, is there some things that you can pick out in our conversations where you say, what does he mean with that? Is that a British thing? So I will give a free audit to anyone who picks out some Britishisms.
Britishism?
Throughout one of our shows.
It's a great deal, folks. Well, we're back. It's Kevin O'Brien. It's Wayne Middleton. This is the SMB Acceleration Show. As I mentioned before the break, start accelerating your business for less than a cup of coffee a day. What's that mean? You can get the first step to improving your business for 96% off. We're running a $99 small business marketing audit now through the end of the year. Normally, this is $2,500. Save yourself some money. Get ready. Put it into ads. and we're about to talk social media and getting your business ready for 2020.
Alrighty, so before the break, we was talking about the pros and cons of it. We mentioned the incongruity of what's online, good versus bad, and everything in between. So, I think we touched on a lot of good points in that first part. Let's get into some of these channels specifically, and let's talk about really, as we look at Facebook with the changes that are happening in Instagram and other channels, what can we look for in 2020? I think this is going to be
Absolutely.
really
I'm looking
interesting.
forward to it. I have to say, so we were kind of discussing blogs before the break. And I know it's not technically a social media platform, but maybe we just throw a few tips for using your blog and social media strategy as one. And one I can think of off the top of my head is, blogs are a great way to focus and help your local SEO. And one thing I did, years ago with a couple businesses I started that I have also continued to do that. It's like one of those strange SEO things that still have worked over, 10 years.
Yeah.
And that is write about local events. If you're attending local events, take pictures and kind of interact. So you almost become the social part of the, your businesses. Exactly.
Yeah.
Your own social channel. And I think it's huge, just going out and taking a half dozen pictures at a local 5K you're participating in, even if you're not a sponsor. If you're a sponsor, you should absolutely be out there taking pictures.
Yeah, and you should be using and leveraging their channels. But yeah. I can agree more. I think, we in this day and age of social influencers, and I was reading an article literally yesterday evening about, YouTube has built all these great social influencers, young guys, but they're getting burnt out already. I'm like, really? Wow. Okay, well that's because they're generating a lot of content. But the reality is, you can create your own, so you can be your own social influencer just by taking trips to these events, taking pictures. Get a logo emblazoned cap or a jacket, anything, and get out there and start taking some shots. At the end of the day, in the last couple of episodes, we talked about how to take good photography or good videography. It's the same principle, and if you look on our website in the next couple of weeks, we're going to run a more detailed article so you can actually pick up some photography tips. If you're using Instagram, if you're on Facebook, why not do some live video?
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid of trying some different things. And I think, as we're talking about doing live video, why not do a live video through a piece of software that we use ourselves called Ecamm. It's very easy to use. And you can set up a very quick, easy live stream and actually have, go out there and meet people and show a bit of your personality and a bit of what makes you, good to do business with.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, for anyone looking to use the live stream, we highly recommend the Ecamm and Restream setup. And, if you have any questions, we're always happy to answer them. But yeah, just as far as the blog, if you're uncomfortable being in the videos, just shoot a minute video, and just put it on YouTube and tag it as the, I feel like I jokingly call it 5K season, like the spring and fall, that there's about 1,000 signs I see everywhere for 5Ks. And, if I was a runner who is also a business owner, which I am not a runner, but if I was a runner, I would absolutely, and business owner, I'm going to be out there doing them anyway. Get a few shots, sacrifice a minute of your time, literally on your race time, to get some good shots. And then, you have this localized content for your website. And then it really boosts your local SEO. And Google's now saying, oh, wow, this business interacts locally. They have local things going on. I need to show them more often when local searches for whatever their business is, are being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's where your social channels will play into that same kind of big picture aspect, which is it can help boost and bolster your SEO. And ultimately, again, it gets your brand out there and it drives traffic to your destination.
Absolutely. And I guess you did a great interlude into what, in my opinion, is still the king of the social media platforms. And I know I'm going to get some pushback from some B2B folks saying that it's not the king of social media platforms. But for all intents and purposes, Facebook is still the king of social media as far as I'm concerned.
That's a very good point.
I like it. See, I was trying to make a bold
audio
statement.
Engineer is literally cracking up because I paused. And yeah, I mean, I can't dispute the fact that Facebook has, and probably still is, in fairness, the number one platform. I think some of the decisions they've made over the last couple of years have started to see some repercussions on that. But in terms of getting your brand out there, in terms of getting your message out there and having a captive audience to engage with, you can't really beat Facebook.
No, and I'm going to say something that's going to be a little off the wall, but I guess to...
I just paused mid-show, so you go for it.
Was, you know what? People in offices scroll Facebook when they're in the bathroom and stuff like that. So you
Unfortunately, it's true. Unfortunately, yes. And just think about the hygiene implications of things. But yes, people do, in their downtime for a couple of minutes, they have Facebook on. And I mean, I've done it myself, and I know you do. You may not necessarily be looking for those. Sorry, I've thrown everyone. You shouldn't necessarily be. You're not necessarily looking for a service or anything else. You're just engaging. But this is where, again, brand awareness plays in. If they're seeing enough of your content out there, they may take a look. It's like it's 2 seconds at a time, something to kind of kill the time in the bathroom or wherever they are.
Or if they're waiting on a meeting, we'll use a better, exactly. You're waiting for a meeting, you see plenty of people scrolling or, kind of absent-minded. And running an ad there seems like, even if you're just going B2B, it's probably not a bad play.
Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, I question it just because of the behaviors and some of the things that I've seen, but it is number one. And honestly, it's the best from a marketer's point of view because you can track most of it. You can actually see your efforts and the ROI on it, whereas on some of the others, it's a little more challenging.
Absolutely. And I mean, in all honesty, though, it is extremely confusing. I still find, and I spend a lot of time with it, is Facebook Business Manager.
Yeah.
While confusing, if you kind of distill it down to just being able to do a few simple things, it's actually extremely powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And trust me, if there's one, this is a shout out to Mr. Zuckerberg. Let's just say this. Fix Business Manager is the worst platform in the world, and it needs to be adjusted because from marketers' point of view, we're not technically savvy, but it's one of the most confusing, difficult back-end systems I have ever seen. I will offer you free UX right now if you give me a shout, just because it is truly awful. But that said, it is extremely powerful too. And I think you can really leverage that platform and get good insights into how your content is performing, how your ads are working, how your engagement's doing. So I think it's really interesting. So I don't want to miss out on this chance for 2020. What kind of strategies are you thinking of for our customers over the 2020 period?
Oh, that's an excellent point. And I think, kind of as we brought up very early in the show, one, it depends on your industry. Yep. There's going to be some determination of how valuable Facebook is based on your industry. And as I opened with, I think it's valuable regardless of your industry. I think if you are in a pure B2B play, you're a commercial real estate broker, you're looking for building owners and business owners that you want to, buy or lease commercial properties. Well, I'll tell you what, those folks are still using Facebook. You need some kind of Facebook play. It might not be an organic play, but you need to be using some kind of regularity, and you need to be using some form of paid ad spend. Now, on the flip side, if you have a very impulse-driven type business, you run an e-commerce business, you're trying to, build up, you can still do pretty well with, regular Facebook. Maybe, as you said, sexy images and stuff go a long way, and people might share it, or you get a lot of eyeballs, brand awareness on it. But, part of it is you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, unfortunately that is true. Now you do. I think the other thing you should be looking at in 2020, if you're not already doing it, is how do you build your Facebook community? So getting more people in there, and you do that through your advertising. If you're an e-commerce site, one tactic you can look at and leverage is really creating those free giveaways.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of different add-ons to Facebook out there that you can use. But if you build a free giveaway, and maybe you do one every kind of special holidays area, so one around Easter, one around St. Patrick's Day, something like that, that can help really get brand awareness out there. It can shift some product, which is good. But again, it's like most things, take it carefully, because you can very easily, and I've seen this happen, you can very easily create a Facebook community of people who expect and only respond when there's something free in it for them. So you don't want to necessarily put all your eggs in that basket, but one or two of those throughout the year could help you get some product out there and build more awareness and get more community into your space. Just again, don't abuse it, and I think you'll be in good shape.
That's a great point. I actually am going to run a idea I had past you that I didn't do, and for a number of reasons, but I've been kicking myself because it was holiday focused and I knew I should have done it, but I didn't. I was on the fence, whatever, because it was probably taking too much effort, which is sad to say. But when you spend all day marketing other people's businesses, sometimes your own ideas fall to the wayside, you know. But so I have a Facebook page. It has about 175,000 people on it. And I also have a Facebook group, which is something I was going to tie into this, is having a group. If starting a local group might be a awesome idea if you're a local business and you're looking to build a community. Facebook is pushing the groups, much like they've been pushing video. So having a group around your town or something specific in the town, which is not directly marketing focused, but is admin by you, but is community focused, you know, is huge. And that's kind of where my Facebook page came from. I was fortunate very early on, Facebook, the organic reach, you know, they weren't even selling ads. So the organic reach was kind of everything. So they almost pushed it beyond what it seems sometimes. So I built this Facebook page. It has about 175,000 people. The Facebook group is like 2,000 to 3,000 people. And I went to piggyback off of, if you remember last year, there were, I think, 2 guys who started a Shopify store, and they gave away like this free red bathing suit, and it went viral. And like, right, they couldn't even keep it in, and basically they charged the cost of the bathing suit in the shipping and handling. So basically they weren't losing money, and it was just to get viral. Maybe we can get 10,000 email addresses. We kind of have somewhere to start.
Yeah, it's starting to build their database out, build their community. I've actually seen, again, being a keen angler like I am, I've seen a lot of fishing companies actually using that same mechanism, which is, hey, get this fantastic lure, normally retails at whatever, and all you pay is shipping and handling. Well, if you look at that carefully, you'll realize the cost of the product is in the shipping, but it works. It gets you hooked. It gets you in there. And from company's point of view, I get email addresses, contact details, and a regular person that I can help promote. I also, and I think this is going to be important for 2020 as well, is leveraging Messenger to help push more products, more services, more offerings. Even, I mean, the amount of customer insights you can get. If you've got a community like yours, a group of 2,000 to 3,000 people, you can start getting really good actual customer insights. You can start leveraging that. You can start testing out, hey, do you like product A versus product B? You can start doing some product testing right there and then. So you can split that group into an even smaller group of potential product testers, which could be really interesting as well. And I think these are tactics that don't necessarily get used, but actually if you think about what Facebook is really there for, it could be a game changer and a difference maker for your business.
Absolutely, it is. And I think I completely agree as far as, you know, there's a lot of strategies. There's a lot that still works with Facebook. So I definitely don't think it's something people should discount right off the bat. And
you just have to be prepared to pay for it, as opposed to what it was. And I think that's kind of a hard pill to swallow, because anyone who's been on there for a number of years knows where it started. With free offerings, the organic reach was everything. Understand, it's a business like any other. They have to make money, they have to answer to the board and everything else. So in order to really maximize it, use those groups, use those channels, build that community. But you know, where you're going to see, depending on what part of the business you're in, where you're going to see probably the most reaction and the most results is paying for your advertising spots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even if you're hesitant to do it, go in, set up a business manager account, preferably before the end of the year. Get yourself started, get yourself ready to go into the new year. You know what? And if you have questions, you could always ask us. We're happy to help walk you through, even on a screen share of, just a base setup of business manager. And then just set up one, $1 a day. Really just start there and say, okay, I'm going to put $1 a day into targeting. It might only be 400 or 500 impressions, and I'm going to target, use a location, especially if you're a local business, go 5-10 miles, whatever it is. But then just go, and you know what, 500, and this is where I think often small business owners get discouraged or don't see the value in that lone dollar a day. If you think about it, 500 impressions a day, all of a sudden is what, 15,000 by the end of the month if you run it for the whole month.
Yep.
And then it's 45,000 by the end of the quarter, and 180, 200,000 by the end of the year.
I think it could be summarized a bit simpler. If you think about it, you think about the value of one customer to your business and how much you're investing in terms financially to get that customer. So if your customer is willing to spend, and this works for plumbers, builders, shops, it doesn't really matter.
Technology. Yep.
If I'm a builder and I get a project, my average project price is around $600 to $700, maybe $800. One customer for $1 is a ridiculous amount of return on investment. So even if I just get one and I do the minimum amount of spend, I get one customer out of that effort, it's paid for itself multiple times. So it's worth that investment to try it.
That's a great example. So you could take that, you're right, make it simple, but you could run the $1 a day ad for the whole year.
Yep.
If you get one customer, it pays for the ads itself.
Yep.
And as we always bring up every show pretty much, if you're good at your business and you're running a business that is doing quality work, service, whatever, well, that one customer via the word of mouth should actually have a multiplier on it and be, 1.5 or 2.5. So all of a sudden, for that one customer you got via an ad, that you executed whatever your service or product is and getting it to them and making their experience enjoyable, they're going to tell 5 to 10 people, and then that most likely is another job. So really that ad became 2 or 2.5 or 3
or 5 or 10. And again, what we're indicating here is something called the social ripple, because not only the word of mouth, but think about it from your Facebook point of view. If someone writes a good review about your business, that now exponentially opens you up to their group of network of people to see, oh, well, Kevin had a great experience with Wayne from waynesbuilders.com, and he had a great experience. So, next time I'm looking for, and I'm a friend of Kevin, next time I'm looking for a builder, I'll look at probably go on Facebook if I haven't spoken to him and see what he's got. And if I see a great review in there from someone else that he did in a couple of snaps, chances are I'm going to use them, because I'd rather go with someone that I know and trust, knowing that he's used the service, and trust his opinion and his experience with them.
Absolutely.
So it's huge. The uptake on it is huge.
Yeah, and it's really of just being consistent with it, right? And keeping it out there and saying, you know what, it most likely isn't going to work today, tomorrow, by the end of the month. But you know what, by the end of the year, I'm going to see an uplift in business, and I'm going to continue to see this uplift. And then year over year, it becomes building on itself, so you end up 15% from the year before because of running these ads. And then year 2, it's exponentially greater because that 15%, there's a 1.15 times the next 15%. Yep.
So it's definitely something that's worth mentioning and worth getting in there. And I think that's why, if you think about what we just talked about, that's why Facebook is still number 1.
Absolutely. And I guess being that we're going to kind of move to the next platform, it's a great interlude, and I really want to get your thoughts, even though Instagram is owned by Facebook and you control it via Business Manager. It's somewhere you can still grow organically.
Absolutely.
And you've had a lot of success and had a recent breakthrough on your own profile you've been working on. What have you learned that you think small business owners could really implement in their business?
Consistency, and really thinking about what it is you're trying to communicate. So I have seen the videos do quite well. I've seen good photography, static, almost like visual stories, like 4 or 5 different shots as part of a sequence, one post, actually do better than video. I have seen that when I leave it with a question, or I leave it with something that kind of gets someone interested and ask them to respond. By asking, I get. So if I ask, hey, I just tied up this superb trout fly and I've been using it. What flies do you use? I will get responses. Whereas if I just said, hey, I just tied up this great fly, I get one or two likes. I get some love around it, which makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, but doesn't really do anything for me.
Absolutely.
So, think about using your content to raise questions or create opportunities for people to engage with you. Because if you don't, you're leaving you're leaving it on the table, and you don't want to leave money on the table. So that's one thing I would do. Make sure your profile is very, very good. Make sure your profile is really well written to best explain what you're trying to do. Always add a profile link. You can actually use some software to put multiple links in your profile, which is worth doing as well. The other thing I would say do is make sure you look for very high yielding people to follow to help grow your audience.
What do you mean by that?
So for me, I picked on my whole Instagram channel is about fishing, so I apologize straight off the bat. But what I did is I followed all the professional anglers. They have huge followings. I mean, we're talking 20, 30, 40,000 people following them and engaged. So I follow them, and I definitely like their posts and leave comments.
Okay.
And I always hook back to mine, so I always put a hashtag in there or put my @Basslam or whatever it is in there to drive people back to mine. And then I try to look at what type of content they're putting out to inform some of the content, not all of it, but some of the content I may want to put out.
Oh, interesting.
So if they're doing a bait review, I'll do a bait review of my own, and it'd be a slightly different bait, maybe a different manufacturer, someone that's not as well known.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to use them to help me decide what type of content, in addition to what I'm already doing, to help me drive what I'm doing.
Oh, that's excellent.
The other thing I've found is when you repost people's content, you tend to pick up a lot of followers that way too. So again, by using these professional anglers, I repost.
How do you repost their content? What's your strategy?
I use an app on my phone called it's called Repost, actually. Pretty simple. I go on, I look for something that's actually pertinent to what my content predominantly is. So for a lot of the time, I'm talking about baits, I'm talking about the experience of being out there and fishing. So I look for content from those guys that do that, and then I repost it. And I normally hook in a little bit of my own post into it to draw people in. And that's pretty much what I do. It's a lot of work, to be honest, but it takes 2 or 3, maybe a minute tops to quickly look at someone else's content, go, okay, I see where you're going with this. It's kind of interesting. It speaks to what I want to do. Let's go.
Do you use how do you find your hashtags? You kind of use what those folks are already using?
No, not always. Again, I try to only maybe use 3 or 4. I've seen a lot of people do 10, 15, 20. No, use 3 or 4. Make sure they're the 3 or 4 most talked about, and you can do that through the search. The other thing that I like to do is tag people. So I've got a lot of people on my network that I know respond well, so I treat them a little differently than I do everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So where they push out content, I will repost and share and like and comment. And what they do in return is they do the same for me. So through almost trial and error at this point, I think it is, I've found a mechanism that works for me, which is I've got a very good core group of followers that always engage with me, so I treat them as VIPs.
Okay, interesting.
And then to become a VIP, all I'm really looking for is someone who's making regular engagement, not just liking stuff or sharing it. I'm looking for people who are actually commenting and giving opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get enough of those from one individual, let's say I get 6 or 7 of those on a series of posts, I will start to treat them more as the VIP. So I start to tag them in things, and then open up the PM. Hey, I'd love to chat with you about X, Y, and Z. Have you got 5 seconds?
Absolutely.
And so I open up the engagement through the private messaging function.
No, that's really interesting. That's a great strategy. And I mean, to what you just said, it's all mobile too, right? Anybody, any business owner, everyone has it. I shouldn't say everyone, but generally about everyone has a smartphone, or pretty much every business owner. I mean, unless you're what I'd read somewhere, the CEO of BlackRock doesn't. But again, if you're the CEO of BlackRock, you don't need one. You have 45 assistants with smartphones.
Exactly. Someone else is your smartphone.
Yeah. So everybody else with a smartphone, that's really somewhere you can really drive your own social media strategy via, just posting in your downtime.
Yep.
Instead of scrolling Facebook aimlessly, you can be before that meeting or whenever.
Quickly swipe.
Quickly.
I will say this, and I've got every social channel for various different things. I've got one for our business, and I've got one for my personal kind of thing, my hobby, as it were. I use my phone 100% of the time to create the content, to deliver the content, and then even down a video, I shoot it on my phone and post it.
Absolutely, and there's plenty of great apps, and that's definitely what we should do. And you know what? We're kind of running tight on time, and unfortunately, we haven't got to LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, or TikTok, or even the social side of YouTube. So I guess we could always take a deep dive next week. But we're going to go to break, and when we come back, Wayne and I are just going to give you some thoughts on the whole wrap-up to Peloton's response. It's just been a really interesting, amazing use of brand awareness, and just going to get Wayne's and I's thoughts, and then I guess we'll get into the rest of it next week. So we're going to take a quick break, and remember, if you missed anything this morning, or if you're on the live stream and didn't have the sound, you can get the podcast wherever podcasts are found or on our website, SMBAcceleration.com.
So I think what we do is, because we didn't touch on these last four, let's do little videos on it.
Yeah.
So there's another.
Oh, we can do it next week.
Videos on it,
yeah.
And then we can go into more.
Because I think LinkedIn's going to take as much Facebook time.
Yeah.
Hello, live stream.
Hi, live stream. So as per usual, we have our notes, which are really just a loose guide to how we run the show. Because eventually, and I don't think we really went off on tangents. We just get into more detail than we anticipated.
Yeah, I think it's
good.
An hour's not that long when you have the back and forth.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's interesting. Just a lot of the time when we're riffing, we come in with an idea, but you're riffing the conversation. It's amazing how much you can suddenly draw back from past experiences,
exactly,
and things like that, and leverage, and it will help businesses no matter what. So it's worth talking about. And again, don't be afraid to send us messages through the streams, and we'll try to respond live on air if we can. If not, happy to chat anytime.
Absolutely. And remember, live stream, you get a behind the scenes look at everything going on.
Yep, even better. You get to see our ugly mugs. We're on the radio and not on TV.
Yeah. You have a face for radio. All right, I'll read this.
Twitter is really interesting. It's a channel that's slowly starting to fizzle.
I was going to say it, and then I feel like on the flip side, because there's so much use, and here's a behind the scenes for your live stream, is I think there's a value.
Yep.
Awesome. And I think the interesting thing, and we'll get into it more, Wayne and I, but because it's such a part of broadcast now, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think there's still a value.
Oh,
right.
I still think there's value. I just think it's less of a focus from a business point of view.
Yes.
That's the way I would say. But through that less of a focus, does it really create an opportunity for others?
See, I kind of think it does. When you look at like John Laguerre from T-Mobile, right?
Yeah. I think if you're a small business owner, Twitter could be your channel of the future.
Yeah.
Honestly, because as the big brands disappear from it, it creates an open
like that
field
void,
for
yeah.
you to start providing value. We're just about to get back on air.
Yeah. All right, Philadelphia and live stream listeners, we're back, and Wayne and I are going to talk quickly about the Peloton ad. For everyone who is not familiar, the Peloton ad sparked a whole bunch of controversy, and since our last show, they put out a response, and I was going to read it real quick and then get Wayne's thoughts on it. So, Peloton's response, part of it read in part, "We constantly hear from our members how their lives have been meaningfully and positively impacted after purchasing or being gifted a Peloton bike or tread, often in ways that surprise them. Our holiday spot was created to celebrate that fitness and wellness journey. While we're disappointed in how some have misinterpreted this commercial, we are encouraged by and grateful for the outpouring of support we've received from those who understand what we are trying to communicate. So, Wayne, I know it was a big hubbub about the whole thing and all, but I wanted to get your thoughts. And what do you think about the whole controversy?
To be honest, I gotta be honest here. I haven't really seen much about Peloton.
Okay.
Just in all fairness.
No, absolutely. I'll show you. Unfortunately, this is the lady who's in the ad, and for anyone who hasn't heard the controversy, a husband gives his wife a Peloton, and the wife is obviously Peloton's not going to use someone who is not physically fit and attractive. She's already physically fit and attractive, and she goes about documenting the next year of her using the Peloton and like her riding it and all this, and it's all about how she feels better about herself because he bought her a Peloton. And there was a lot of backlash around the ad because people said, why is a husband buying his wife a Peloton? And she's already physically fit. Isn't this kind of...
Yeah, what does that say about the male audience and everything else? So, yeah, I mean, I can see how that can be misread.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually very easy to misread given what I just saw of the model on it. Yeah. I think the intent was different to the execution. I think that's important to know. Again, brands sometimes hit and miss on these type of things. I remember doing things with diabetes and Paula Deen, and that went really south. But with this one, I mean, she's a very fit, physical person, and yes, what does that say about her husband? And yeah, should we really be doing that in this day and age? I mean, it's the old adage of typical advertising, which is use a beautiful, slim model when everyone else will follow. Well, in this day and age, with Dove doing all they do to sort of show the body as a natural thing, and as a beautiful thing, I can see why it creates so much.
Absolutely.
Concern. Do I think the way Peloton responded was good? It was very well written, and I think they did all they could to not talk about the topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, you as a marketer, as an advertiser, you try these things, and you hope that the message doesn't get misunderstood.
And
I think that's what it was. It's a misunderstanding. I think the intent was there. You take that model out of it and you put in an everyday person, would there be as much of an uproar?
True. It's a good point. And I actually think it was kind of right on brand for Peloton. I actually, for some reason, I guess I've looked at them before, so I've gotten a number of targeted Peloton ads, both via podcast and audio and radio and video. And
they know I don't exercise.
But the interesting thing is most of their advertising I find genius because, and I know this is not probably the word they would want used, it's exclusionary. It says they start with, we're not for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, they are very, I mean, I've seen enough of their ads to know what the brand stands for. And I've used them, I think they're fantastic, quite honestly. I think it's really hard to have any better experience than on a Peloton.
See, I've never used one. I've heard great experience.
They are fantastic. And yeah, they just missed this one. They misread how it would be understood.
Or did they? Because they've gotten a lot of press. I mean, I looked on LinkedIn, and I think in the health and like fitness area and advertising, like 7 of the top most shared articles in the last 2 weeks have all been around Peloton.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly blown up, right?
Yeah.
But when a brand puts something out and it's a negative, it's a risky strategy for sure, because it can go one way or another. I mean, they're getting good press, they're getting good things, and their response was what you would expect. It was a corporately, legally put together response.
You know what, though? I have a question.
As a brand, though, and knowing what they stand for, I mean, the ad is in keeping with everything else I've ever seen.
That was what I was thinking.
So, you have to wonder.
No, absolutely. I think it really does have, it's an interesting dichotomy of two things. One, Sure, they probably didn't want all the backlash.
Yeah.
But 2, sparked a lot of people talking about Peloton. And
probably reached new audiences.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
And then the next part of it is the people that are going to buy Peloton, they probably like that controversy. They're people that are going to go out and spend several $1,000s on the top of the line exercise equipment. You know what? Are a little want to be exclusionary. They want to be like, all right, I'm different because I Peloton every day or I work out every day. So maybe it spoke really well to their audience.
Yeah, and only time will tell. I think what will be interesting is how they play the next ad.
No, absolutely. It will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they put out their numbers and how they did. But you know what? That's all the time we have for this December 23rd. And you know what? We have one more show left in 2019. We'll help all you small business owners getting ready for 2020. And you know what? I hope everybody had a great day. We look forward to next week and the last show of the year, huh?
Yeah, everyone have a great holiday season, and we'll be back on air just before the end of the year. And we're going to hit some of those last couple of social channels and a few other things for going into 2020. So if you haven't, please tune in to WWDBAM.com to download the podcast and tune in every day. Thanks very much.
Sounds good.
Everyone on the live stream, thanks for joining us today. And don't be strangers. Comment away and join us.
Write us some comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sitting here with nothing to do.